All right, welcome back, funny audience. I'm Tal, the Slippy Bunny, reading you a story, accompanied by the Slappy Hammy, the Slappy Hammy named Knightley. Um, last time on Just Like a Date Sent by Pearl, we met with Katashi's besties, Tamaki and Kazuki. Um, and there's some mysterious thing on a shelf that we didn't get to see. I don't know. There was red strings on it, I guess.
Kazuki.
Kazuki. Anyway, uh, I'm not a Japanese person. Anyway, let's get into this. 2 weeks
Alright.
passed by in a blink of an eye. You're almost.
Who's okay?
What's up?
It's you. I forgot.
2 weeks passed by in a blink of an eye, and you're about to lose your cool. You only had a week left before you started to cut into another boy's designated time, and you couldn't have that. You could always deliver a fake confession, but you also didn't want to run the risk of rejection. If a guy rejected your confession, would that qualify as automatic disqualification? Oh my goodness, so many syllables. Um, you were afraid to find out the answer. On that particular day, you didn't have any club activities, so you were free to go home and maybe spend some time with Katashi. A quick stop by your shoe locker proved this to be impossible. However, when you opened it up, you saw Katashi's empty bento box and a note sitting innocently on top.
Oh, come on. This is not happening. Hana scoffed and crossed her arms over her ample bust.
You pick you picked up the note, muttering back, "What do you mean?"
I mean, don't you remember the tactic you wanted to use to win Katashi's heart? Hana replied.
You winced, remembering how you wanted to dramatically exchange love notes. You were hoping she'd forgotten about that. You looked at the note, somewhat scratchy handwriting. Hey. Hey, my mom wants me home, so I can't walk you home today. Bring your bamboo sword with you, Katashi. You wondered why his mom wanted him home so suddenly, but they did seem close. Maybe she had the day off and wanted to spend it with her son? That would be sweet. You folded the note and put it in your bag, along with Katashi's empty bento box. You considered actually going to get your bamboo sword, but decided against it. It was against the rules to leave with equipment, and the last thing you needed was to get in trouble for stealing property. You'd be fine without your sword. You doubted anything would happen. You changed your shoes and made your way out the door. It was kind of interesting to leave the same time as everyone else for once. Of course, it wasn't the first time, but it felt like forever since you've taken the day off club activities. Without Katashi around, there was no excuse to take the normal roads. You could use your old forest shortcut. Your stomach was a ball of nerves, considering you were really short on time, and it sucked that you had to sacrifice time with Katashi, but there was no other choice. You couldn't impede on his time with his mother. You doubt he'd like you very much if you pulled that. You probably just need to confess to him and hope for the best. You gnawed your bottom lip deep in thought as you traversed a familiar forest path. Inviting him to the roof was a tried and true method, but there were also too many people there. You needed it to be special, something with meaning. Maybe that room the two of you always ate lunch together in. That would be nice. A hand clamped down on your shoulder, and you spun around in surprise to see the guy who'd sworn you'd seen before, and yet you hadn't at the same time. His red hair framed his face nicely, and his earthy green eyes sparkled in the sunlight. Part of his red hair was pinned back with bobby pins, likely keeping bangs from falling into his eyes. He had a smug, almost charming smirk on his face. He wore a similar uniform to Kazuki, a black gakuren. It was unbuttoned and showed a plain white t-shirt underneath. He had one hand in his pocket. Behind him, he was flanked by 6 other guys, all of them looking far scarier than the guy in front of you. You could see this situation for what it was. These are some of Katashi's enemies, coming to attack you under the impression the two of you were dating. You closed your eyes and breathed through your nose to calm down. You felt a mix of between terror and annoyance towards the situation you'd gotten yourself into. In hindsight, perhaps it hadn't been a very good idea to go to a place where you were already isolated and incapable of escaping. You could run, technically, but there were 7 of them, counting the redhead. The chances of you actually escaping were incredibly slim. Hey there, the redhead smiled at you. You're Shinigami's girlfriend, right? I'm his old friend, Kana Minoru. Oh, but don't be shy. You can just call me Minoru. No need for formalities among friends, right?
The delinquents surrounding Minoru all laughed at his words, their expressions growing more sinister by the minute. You crossed your arms over your chest, feeling very exposed all of a sudden. You're no friend of Katashi. Minoru's eyes flitted back and forth, as though he was looking at the other delinquents to see their reactions.
Ah, that obvious, Minoru laughed. I was hoping we could make this friendly, but since you seem to already know, well, you're coming with us. Hope you understand.
You took a step back. You really didn't want to go anywhere with these creeps, but you knew running was a long shot. But I'm never entering this forest again, you muttered. It seemed only negativity awaited you here. Hey, Anna frowned down at you. Don't run. It'll make things worse. You inhaled sharply through your nose, and your fisted hands were shaking. Minoto must have noticed you were midway between a fight or flight response because he added,
Don't make one of these guys hurt you. I don't like seeing girls get hurt, you know.
You exhaled. Fine, let's go.
Glad you're looking at the big picture, Minoru chirped.
He clapped his hand on your back. He clapped his hand on your shoulder, and through the gesture it was friendly enough. You felt pretty unnerved. He kept his hand on your shoulder as he started pushing you through the forest. Three of the delinquents with him kept flanking him, while the other three fanned out in front of you, really making sure you weren't going to make a break for it. Minoto shifted his arm around you and leaned a bit too close into your personal
Right.
space.
So, what's the pretty lady's name?
Fuck off, you spat.
Ooh, touchy, he chuckled. Based on your looks, I didn't think you'd be so vulgar, but I kind of like it.
You ground your teeth. This guy was going out of his way to piss you off, wasn't he? You didn't say anything, so Minoto continued.
You ignoring me? He feigned hurt. How cold. So very cold.
Why were you asking for my name if you already knew it anyway? You growled. And who gave you permission to use my first name?
Oh, come on. You're a foreigner anyway. Does it really even matter? Minoru replied. And I just wanted to hear you tell me on your own.
You're a creep, you spat.
Ouch, that's pretty mean of you. You should be careful what you say to people. Minoru gave you a dark look, promising pain if you didn't cooperate.
I thought you didn't like seeing girls get hurt, you countered.
I don't mind if they're being disrespectful, Minoru responded.
You wanted to scoff. He hadn't done anything worthy of respect. Honestly, he could go fuck off for all you cared. Still, the last thing you wanted was to earn yourself a black eye from this encounter. You didn't say anything for the rest of the walk. It was almost impressive how these guys managed to avoid pretty much any person or public area you could escape into. There really was no opening to get out of this situation. Don't panic, Hana said. If it comes down to it, I'll help you. He looked at her, eyes screaming, How? I don't know, she sighed. I can't physically touch anything, but I'm smart. I will get you out. Somehow. You couldn't count on it, but you appreciated her support and concern anyway. Eventually, Monoto and his little crew stopped in front of a massive concrete building. It looked like the kind of building that had once been a storage facility, and upon entering, that's how it seemed. There weren't a lot, but there were still a few piles of boxes here and there. At Katashi's hangout, there were a few couches here and there, as well as some mattresses. But looking at the mattresses made you feel like they were used for more than sleeping.
Ugh.
There were a few tables, too, spilling over with empty beer cans and cigarette butts. You scrunched your nose up in disgust.
Oh, that's fucking disgusting. Anyway,
Don't. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. Lovely makes it PG.
take a
PG
seat.
13.
Make yourself at home, Minoru exclaimed.
He brought you to the couch and pushed down on the shoulder so hard you had no choice but to sit. You scowled at him, but he ignored you, instead opting to push a few buttons on his phone. After a long, almost painfully long moment, Minoto's phone buzzed and you saw a sinister grin appear on his face.
Alright, boys. Shinigami's on his way to come save his woman. We better be prepared.
Minoru pointed at two of the delinquents.
You two, go block the entrance. Then another two. You guys get the back. The last two just stayed standing there. You guys are with me.
It won't work, you commented.
What do you mean? Minoru replied.
He looked annoyed, but also a bit curious. Tatashi's gonna kick your ass, he snapped.
He won't be able to, Minoru grinned. Unless he wants his precious girlfriend getting hurt, that is.
You crossed your arms. You're mistaken, the two of us aren't even dating.
Minoru raised an eyebrow. Is that so?
Yeah, you confirmed.
Well, you're close enough, Minoru shrugged. It's obvious Shinigami has feelings for you, so I know he'll come for you anyway.
How is that obvious, you asked?
Oh, come on, don't be silly. I saw the way he looked at you, Minoru snorted. Oh, blushes. Um, the gaze of a man in love. I can see
Hmm.
why I can kind of see why he fell for you. You've got such a cute face.
You looked away. I'd almost be flattered if you weren't keeping me here against my will to hurt someone I care about.
Ah, don't be like that. Minoru grinned and plopped down a seat next to you. It was way too close for comfort. Would it shatter Katashi's heart if I stole it would shatter Katashi's heart if I stole you away. So how about it?
Not gonna happen, you huffed.
Too bad, Minoru replied. I think I've kind of like you.
Good for you.
Mm.
Minato, oh yeah, it's you.
Mm.
Oh no, it's me. Minato gripped your chin tightly in his hand and tugged you close to him. For a moment, you weren't sure what he was doing, but when his lips pressed against when his lips pressed against yours, you got a pretty good idea. You heard
Oh
a
my
faint click
god.
just as you managed to push him away. You paled when you noticed the phone in his hand. That bastard.
Oh my gosh. Now I just gotta send this to Shinigami. Maybe he'll even cry when he sees this, he laughed.
Why are you doing this? You asked as you wiped your mouth with the back of your hand.
What? Katashi hasn't told you? Minoru asked. He said it in a joking way.
He said it in a joking way, but when yeah,
Should I?
you can
Okay.
take the rest of it.
He said it in a joking way, but when he saw your blank expression, he actually looked surprised. Typical.
Oh, you gonna tell me or what? You asked.
You're pretty demanding, aren't you?
Okay, so you're not gonna tell me. That's cool.
I didn't say that, Minoru sighed. Shinigami and I used to be friends. Believe it or not, but that bastard screwed me over. You know what your precious Katashi did? He left me as I was getting the shit beat out of me, that's what. We are outnumbered in a fight, and the bastard ditched me. He's taken on a nice guy image recently, but I know what he's really like. He's a backstabbing motherfucker.
From the rage in his expression, you could tell all he was saying was true, but it also didn't sound much like Katashi at all. He wasn't the type to just abandon people. There had to have been a reason, a real, actual reason for this to happen. If he's such a backstabber, how do you know he'll even come for me? You asked. Minoru smiled, but it was cruel.
You and I are different. He's convinced he can beat me. That's why he'll come for you. But it won't work like that.
He sighed. That didn't sound right. Minoru didn't look like the type that would be reasoned with anyway, and it's not as though you knew why Katashi had abandoned his friend to get beat up. Are you the one who are you the one who showed Katashi where the house was? You asked.
Huh? So you've been there. Katashi snorted snorted and stared and start and start.
Katashi? Katashi snorted?
Oh no, Minoru, but Minoru snorted and start at his phone screen.
He he stared at his phone. He smiled at something. He turned to the screen at you to show you a barrage of furious text from Katashi. Most of them consisted of promises of murdering the red-haired boy by your side, but there were some pleads. Pleads not to hurt you, to just leave you
Aw.
alone. Your heart clenched. He really
Aw.
did care.
Also, surprised that
uh,
they still got each other's number.
you never,
You never know.
maybe
Maybe it's like a
unblocked
throwaway
him?
phone.
Oh,
He got really upset with that
well, that's
picture
him.
where I was kissing you in. I'm sure he's frantically trying to get over here now. Frantically trying to get over here now.
Mm,
Oh,
that's you.
actually,
Look at him. Look at
actually,
the
I'm already
voice.
here. Dun, dun, dun,
Oh, the
dun.
voice that echoed through the warehouse was beyond threatening. Can you imagine the echoing? Holy shit. It sounded downright insidious. The two delinquents inside looked completely stunned, as though Katashi punching his way through two of their buddies was shocking. Minoru, on the other hand, looked like he'd been expecting that all along. He rose to
Damn.
his feet and slowly began clapping his hands.
Wow, Shinigami. I'm surprised you made it here so quickly, Minoru chuckled. Impressed, actually. Not that it matters. Just means I'll kick your ass sooner. You're not kicking anyone's ass, Katashi said. His voice was eerily calm and it scared you. Oh, maybe I should say calmer. You're not kicking anyone's ass. Actually, I am, Minoru beamed, because before every time you try to fight back, I'll have one of my buddies here land a hit on your girl.
Okay. Your eyes widened. He wasn't serious, was he? That was just unreasonable. He looked up to Hana for guidance, for some sort of answer, but she still looked like she was trying to figure out a way out of the building. What were you supposed to do in this situation? You couldn't just let Katashi get beat up for you. Damn it, this was all your fault! In spite of that, Katashi unclenched his fists and let out a soft breath.
What?
Mm.
Fine. Do your best, coward, Katashi snapped. You're just getting what you deserve, Minoru replied. He cracked his knuckles as he approached Katashi.
Katashi, you can't be serious, you exclaimed. You winced when one of the other delinquents grabbed you by the hair and tugged on it
Ugh,
roughly. You need pixie cut, bestie.
so
Get what I
true.
got.
Yeah, so true.
Oh, this is like, I think this is just some dude. If he's just saying,
Yeah.
shut up and watch, bitch. He grinned. Oh, nice. Now what were you supposed to do? You didn't even have the luxury of trying to run anymore. Minoru threw his first punch, and you could tell from the look on Katashi's face that it hit hard. Minoru was aiming mainly for Katashi's stomach, but he threw in a few good punches at his face. It didn't take long for Katashi to collapse,
Oh my
spitting up
god.
blood. That was worrisome, at best. He looked around frantically. Anything would do at this point, but there was nothing aside for some worthless garbage littering the ground. Katashi, please, just fight back, you screamed. I already told you I have more than one trick up my sleeve.
Oh, that's not supposed to be
That's
there.
not dialogue. But he didn't. He just laid there, curled in on himself as Minoru shoved his leg into his stomach.
Get up already, Katashi, Minoru cackled. If you pass out, who knows what we'll do to your girlfriend? Bastard, Katashi choked out.
He made an effort to return to his feet, but when Minoru's knee connected with the underside of his chin, Katashi went sprawling onto the ground. Stop! You'll kill him! You shouted.
Maybe that's what he deserves, Minoru replied as he aimed for another harsh kick. This one was almost hitting Katashi's head.
Stop it! You shrieked. That's it. You couldn't watch this anymore. You struggled out of the delinquent's grip, feeling an unreasonable amount of your hair getting tugged out.
Ugh.
But it was well worth it. The delinquent attempted to grab you again, but your reflexes from Kendo paid off, and you were able to slip out of his hold. Your foot hit something, and though the momentary distraction wasn't exactly welcome, once you realized what it wasn't like it was a godsend. You slammed your foot on the end of the object, enough for it to pop up a bit and make it easier for you to pick up. You held it protectively out in front of you. A metal pipe wasn't a kendo sword, but that didn't mean you couldn't use it as one. Aw, you gonna hit me with that? The delinquent cooed. Shut up, you snapped. You'd do well not to underestimate me. The delinquent clearly wasn't paying much attention to your words. Girl boss! Katashi, on the other hand, was. And once he noticed the weapon brandished in your hands and the fact you were no longer in immediate danger, he rolled out of the way of Minoru's hit.
Ugh. Don't think you can avoid it, Tashi, Minoru snapped.
He clearly hadn't noticed yet what was going on with you, and frankly, you were glad for it. Kakashi returned to his feet, albeit a bit shakily, and held up his fists.
What? You're gonna fight back now that and let your girlfriend get hurt? See, I told you he was a backstabber.
Minoru looked back at when he said it, but his eyes widened when he realized that you were no longer being controlled by his cronies, that you were defending yourself. In that single second of distraction, Katashi socked his fist straight into Minoru's face. Minoru fell over from the impact, and you almost wanted to laugh had the situation not been so dire. You would have been content to just watch the situation unfold, but unfortunately, you had your own fight to deal with. The delinquent who had been holding your hair was still standing in front of you, looking arrogant as all hell, but also ready to fight. The other delinquent, on the other hand, was looking between you and Katashi, like he couldn't decide who to help. Not that you blamed her for that. No, you actually did. Fuck that guy. You gripped your pipe tight, looking for an opening. Your kendo club may not have been serious, but you knew at least this much. You'd been trained. This guy hadn't. You had the upper hand. Simple as that.
Damn it, Kaoru. Minoru choked out.
Minoru choked out. Apparently, that was you.
Minoru choked out, apparently back on his feet again, and holding his own pretty well against someone he needed to threaten in order to beat up. Get the girl. If we have her, Shinigami will have no choice to stop.
Hadoru. Apparently the confused delinquent nodded and turned to you. Great, now you had two enemies. That was fine. Just look for an opening. All you needed was an opening. There, the first delinquent, the one who'd ripped a chunk out of your hair. Ripped a chunk of your hair out, had widened his stance too much. Too easy. The first delinquent swung a punch your way, and you dodged out of the way, and at the same time slammed your pipe directly into his face. He tried to
Nice.
dodge, but with a stance like that, he was locked into place. He couldn't move quickly enough, didn't have the mobility. He was out cold and on the ground, and you tried not to feel bad about it. In your distracted state, however, the other delinquent, Kaoru, I'm never gonna be able to pronounce Kaoru, had managed to get his own
Cattle
punch
Roo?
in, right across the cheekbone.
It's
Kaoru.
Karu.
Kaoru? Oh,
Like
Kaoru?
Hikaru and Karu.
Kaoru?
Like
Yeah, I know. I was never able to pronounce Kaoru, okay? I was always a Hikaru stan. Don't look at me. Right across the cheekbone and it ached, and for a few delirious seconds your sight spun and you had trouble focusing. How could Katashi or anyone deal with this? You gave a few blind swings, but it was mostly just to keep Kaoru away from you.
you
You
got it.
backed up a few feet, giving yourself some distance. It was okay. All you had to do was find the weakness again, but you couldn't. As far as you could tell, this guy didn't have any weaknesses in his stance. Before you could figure out another strategy, his hand swung out and knocked the pipe right out of your grip. You heard it clatter on the ground. You blinked, staring at your now empty hands. You had about a second to make a decision. You could go for the pipe or run like hell the opposite direction. You knew what this delinquent would be expecting, but if you ran away, and that would give Kaoru the opportunity to grab the pipe and either attack you with it or Katashi. With the extent of with Katashi's injuries, you couldn't let that happen. You had to go for the pipe. You locked eyes with Kaoru, and you knew he was thinking the same thing. The two of you made a break for it, and you knew immediately that you wouldn't be able to get there fast enough. Kaoru, Kaoru would reach the pipe first, and even if you grabbed it, you knew there would be no wresting it from his grip. So you did with one of those baseball slides that somehow scraped the side of your leg and kicked it out of the way. It landed dangerously close to Katashi and Minoru's fight,
Ugh.
and you could only hope Katashi would get to it first. Just sling this man in the slide. That's so smooth. Ugh, I love this. With his injuries, the pipe would end the moment Minoru got that pipe. Wait, did I just say the pipe would end? Fight would end the moment Minoru got that pipe. Since you had to slide along the ground, Kaoru was able to grab you by an arm and wrench you to your feet, almost dislocating your shoulder in the process. He used his hand to cover your mouth and had the other arm in a deathlock around your neck. Every time you moved a bit too much, he would squeeze tighter, cutting off any and all air. By all accounts, it was a smart move, but he made his mistake when he put his hand over your mouth. Minoru, I got her! No, ow! He exclaimed. That's right, you bit him. Disgusting as that may have been, you didn't care. Kaoru squeezed his arm around your neck tightly enough to not only cut off oxygen, but also to probably bruise the windpipe. You choked out a gasp and bit down harder. You could taste blood. Kaoru
Ugh.
yelped and finally let you go,
Ugh.
using his other hand to nurse his bloody wound. Yeah, I would do it. I would fucking bite his hand off.
I would hope.
Damn.
I would hope to kick the nuts.
That too. I would also hope this is not during COVID.
That's true.
Otherwise. Yeah, you collapsed on the ground, wet spots dancing in your eyes. What a bastard. You knew you couldn't just lay there, but it was really hard when your entire throat felt like sandpaper. You bitch, Kaoru yelled, and you were barely able to register when his foot slammed down, presumably to kick your nose in, but you had to manage to roll out of the way in time. You had to get up. You had to. You managed to push yourself to your feet.
Hey.
Mm.
Hey. That was Katashi, wasn't it? Get out of there. Get out of here.
I'm not leaving you, he rasped back. Yeah, get out and get here. You rasped back. There was no way you'd do such a thing. You moved as quickly as possible to the discarded pipe and grabbed it from the ground. That won't work on me, bitch, Kaoru shouted. But your intention wasn't Kaoru anymore. No, there was only one way this fight could end. You turned to Katashi and Minoru's fight. Minoru's back was to you. Good. Without a second's delay, you brought the pipe down on his back, not hard enough to leave permanent damage, you hoped, but just to knock him out a little. Minoru collapsed into a little heap on the ground and everything went silent. I feel like Katashi's like in love with you or some shit right now. She stared
I
at
would
you,
fall in love
awe
with
and
you.
something
Damn.
else in his eyes. He's like, God, I gotta fucking marry this girl right now. His hands were still in fists. He was still high off the adrenaline. You didn't think he'd be calming down anytime soon. Even with his injuries, when Katashi turned to Kaoru, the delinquent still looked about ready to piss himself. I mean, I was just following orders, Kaoru sputtered. But Katashi was having none of it. He approached the boy and grabbed him by the lapels of his uniform, holding him off the ground in a display of incredible strength. Oh, shit!
Blushes? You think hurting my girl is just
Yeah,
following orders? Damn, my girl. You think hurting my girl is just
Oh
following
my
orders? Katashi growled. I should rip your fucking throat out.
You wanted to get involved, you really did, but maybe you would just wait a second, for Katashi to finish up. This guy did punch you and almost choke you after all. Um, Kaoru stammered.
Well, you think you're good just because Minoru told you to do this? You think you get away with this? Katashi snapped and looked and shook Kaoru around a little bit.
Please don't hurt me, Kaoru winced.
You're begging me now? Katashi yelled. You're about to choke my girl and now you're begging for mercy? I should kill you.
Put a hand on Katashi's shoulder, babe, please. He looked at you, his eyes flaming in rage, but they cooled a bit when he saw your expression. Don't kill him, you said. Katashi glared at the boy he was holding above the ground. Kaoru looked like he was about to piss himself.
It's your lucky day, bastard. Katashi seethed as he put Kaoru back on his feet.
He looked about ready to cry tears of relief. Thank you, Shinigami-sama. I'm sorry, Shinigami-sama. But before he could finish his statement, Katashi hit him with a right hook straight to the nose. It made a nasty cracking sound, and Kaoru crumbled to the ground, unconscious.
Fucking bastard, Katashi grumbled. Then he turned to you. you,
Yes,
you okay?
you. And then, yeah. I should be asking you, you frowned. You're way worse off than me.
I've been through worse, Katashi replied, but he looked just about ready to keel over, so you weren't about to hold him to that.
We should probably get you to a hospital, he said. You reached out to grab him, but he just shook you off.
No doctors. Can't afford that shit, Katashi said.
Well, that was right. He didn't have that kind of money. Just another reason to hate Minoru. We need to at least make sure you're okay, he replied. How about Natsume-sensei? She should at least check you out, right?
He groaned. Natsume-sensei is by home by now. Well, that's gotta be you.
Is there any way to contact her? I'm not letting you go home like this, you exclaimed.
I'll be fine, he responded, but as he hobbled to the door, you can see he wasn't going to make it much further.
Here, wrap your arm around me. I'll support you, you said. Tashi didn't look like he wanted to, but he didn't have much choice, so he did anyway. So he did so anyway. The two of you made your way towards the door. There had to be something you could... Wait. You stopped and fished around for your phone. Once you found it, you shuffled through your contacts until you found a familiar number.
What are you doing? Katashi grunted.
Just hold on, he replied. You silently prayed. Pick up, pick up, pick up! Hello? A familiar voice. Oba-san! You breathed a sigh of relief. You continued walking towards the exit with Katashi in tow. Makoto replied, sounding utterly bewildered. What's going on? I need your help. Do you remember how to bandage wounds? You know, from when you were delinquent, you asked. Makoto didn't speak for a long moment. I'm a mother. Of course I know how to bandage wounds. Thank God, he whispered. Katashi and you reached the exit. It would be a long walk home. Unbeknownst to you, a pair of glassy green eyes followed your form as you left the warehouse.
Ah. Oh, man.
Oh my goodness.
My girl, he said. My girl.
Oh, he didn't say it just once. He said it like 2, 3 times.
Oh
Damn.
my gosh. My head is
I don't
spinning.
know. Oh my god.
That's a chapter. Oh my gosh, the next chapter is titled
is.
Hospital Visit.
Thought we weren't gonna go to the hospital.
Who knows?
Who knows what'll happen?
Yeah, who knows what'll happen. Anyway, that's a chapter. Oh, this is goodbye. Don't forget all the links in the description. Lovely socials, Nightly and Eyes. And you can read the story on your own if you can't wait for us. I literally know that no one else is listening to us because there's only like four views and they're all me and you.
We know this is both for you and my benefit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like one other person who accidentally stumbles upon this.
All right. Future Nightly, future Tal. Thanks for listening. The real G's out here. All right, bye.